Along with the PO-12 rhythm and the PO-16 factory, the PO-14 sub completes the essential trilogy of pocket operators that you'll really need to start your collection. For such a tiny little unit, the sub produces some really fat bass lines featuring 15 synth tones, which range from FM and phase distortion synthesis to wavetable and physical modelled sounds. There's also what Teenage Engineering call their micro drum machine, 16 sampled drum sounds which allow you to add a bit of percussive flavour when creating patterns. These sounds can either be played live or inputted into the built-in step sequencer to create some pretty complex synth-based patterns. They may look complicated, but actually the pocket operators are pretty simple once you know how they work. Let's quickly go through the buttons. There's 16 main keys which allow you to play the sounds, but they also correspond to different effects and preset pattern patches. There's 3 buttons along the top which allow you to access different sounds, patterns and control the BPM. 2 control knobs, A and B, that's for controlling different parameters on the unit. And down the side there's 4 more keys. Right, which is effectively a record button. When that's active, we can enter notes into the grid sequencer. We can hold it down to record live. Play stop, which plays and stops the sequencer. Style allows us to punch in one of 16 effects into a pattern. And the key button allows us to access different onboard playing styles when programming patterns, but we'll look at that in a bit more depth in a minute. To select a sound, simply hold down the sound button, followed by one of the 16 selection keys. If you select one of the 15 synth tones, the buttons then become a keyboard of sorts, allowing you to play melodies. The micro drum kit is selected by pressing button 16. When in this mode, each of the keys will play a different percussive sound. Each sound has 2 preset parameters which can be adjusted via the 2 control knobs A and B. Depending on the sound selected, these knobs control parameters such as filter cutoff and resonance when using the synth sounds, and pitch and volume when playing the micro drum kit. Let's have a little play. So let's take a look at how we go about creating our own pattern. First off, we need to select a pattern that we're happy to overwrite. So hold down the pattern button, I'm going to press number 16. You'll notice there's a little flashing LED. This indicates the current active pattern. Let's play it and have a listen. So we're going to delete that pattern by holding down the key button and pattern together. Now when I press play, that's a completely blank pattern. Now we've got our blank pattern, there's 2 ways that we can enter notes. We can either enter them into the sequencer grid. If I press play, you can see this little LED running through the 16 steps of the sequencer. Or we can play those live, whether we then quantize to the nearest beat. To give you an idea of how it works with the grid, let's put in a bit of a percussive pattern. First off, I need to go into write mode, so I'll press the right button, you'll see the little record icon appears on the screen. And we're going to select the micro drum kit, so hold down sound, press number 16. We're going to put a beat on 1, 2, 3, 4. You can now hear that playing. Doesn't sound much like a bass drum, but we can adjust the tone of that instrument now by holding down each beat we've input it on and selecting a different sound using control knob A. So there's our 4 to the floor bass drum. Let's just chuck in a couple more beats at random. We'll change the sounds of those. So now we've got a basic percussive pattern. Let's add a bass line, but we'll play it in live this time. So to play in live, first come out of write mode, so we press the right button again. We're going to now select a sound that we want to use. There we go, let's use that one. Hit play for our pattern. hold down the right button and then play away. Once we've programmed our basic pattern, we can start having a bit of fun by tweaking parameters and inserting effects. As mentioned earlier, parameters can be tweaked and recorded to become part of the pattern. We'll press play. We've already got our bass sound selected. So what I'm going to do is hold down the right key and then just tweak the parameter A and B buttons. Hopefully you can now hear that those parameter changes have been saved and are now part of our pattern. Just like the Pocket Operator Factory, the sub features 16 different play styles which can be inserted into your pattern. These include arpeggios, chords and transpositions, and can be punched in and out by holding down the key button, followed by one of the 16 different keys which will trigger its corresponding style. Let's have a little play. To erase any of this style data, simply hold down the key button for the duration of the loop. But I did quite like that, so let's just put a few more back in. And now we can move on to adding some effects. Again, there's 16 different types of effects, and they work pretty much exactly the same way as the playing styles do. But this time, we're going to hold down the style button and then punch in one of the 16 different effects. There's loads of different effects to choose from, including delay, distortion, bit crush, stutter and note shuffle. And again, just like the play styles, data can be deleted by holding down the effects key. A pattern's tempo can be controlled by pressing the BPM button. There's 3 presets: hip hop 80 BPM, disco 120 and techno 140. But if you hold down that BPM button and tweak parameter knob B, you can really fine tune the tempo. Once you've created your pattern, it can be copied to another patch by pressing and holding right and pattern, followed by the patch number you want to copy it to, where it can then be edited. There's room for 16 patterns to be saved, and these can be chained together for playback. Simply hold down the pattern button, followed by the different patches you want to chain together. We'll select 4 here. Now when I press play, each time that pattern loops over, you should hear it change. Go back to the beginning. There's an input and an output. The input is used when linking Pocket operators together, and the output kicks out line level for connecting to a mixer or headphones. These are mono units, but when you're using a stereo cable in sync mode, the signal is split into audio on the right and a click track on the left, meaning that other units in the range can easily be linked and synced with a single stereo mini jack cable. So finally, to give you a proper idea of how it sounds, let's chain together all of the 16 presets and leave it to play for you. This is the Teenage Engineering Pocket Operator Sub.
Wow.